Well, all right. Good evening, everybody, and welcome. We're so excited to have you this evening. My name is Elizabeth Bostic, and I'm a board member here at the Federation for Children with Special Needs. And we're very excited tonight to have our monthly Connecting Families, though we did take some time off for the summer, and now we're starting the new year, the new school year. And before we get started, I wanted to let you know that in our continuous efforts to make sure that we're being as inclusive as possible to all of our families of different backgrounds, we are using a new interpretation service. So on your screen, you will see a link and a QR code. That is a new service called Wordly that will give you the ability to have both audio and print interpretation of tonight's presentation. So please note that change, and we will also put that information in the chat so that as we start our presentation, you will have access to a wide range of languages to support making sure that you get all of the same information that everybody else is getting tonight. Okay. So then, without further ado, I would like to introduce our topic and our guest for tonight. Tonight, we're going to talk about something near and dear to my heart, which is school, culture, and climate. And we are really excited to have Ivelissa Caraballo, there we go, got it out, from the Brockton Family Engagement Coordinator here this evening. Ivelissa has worked to promote systemic change in Boston schools through family and community organizing. She has worked to elevate the voices of marginalized communities and has created a Brockton chapter where she chairs the Parent Advisory Board, is a member of the Oversight Committee for the district's first Community and Family Center, and leads parent workshops with the Parent Engagement Specialist. Overall, Ivelissa is committed to empowering parents through knowledge, given what she describes is a huge learning curve regarding understanding how schools can better serve students. Additionally, she is devoted to ensuring that schools are culturally responsive to the needs of the parents they serve. Specifically, Ivelissa is interested in collaborating with schools as partners to shift the way family engagement has been done historically in a more intentional manner. Such an approach characterizes students and families' unique cultural differences as valuable aspects of the learning environment and provides teachers and students with the foundation to develop deeper connections among themselves. Moreover, an asset-based approach to parent engagement provides space for families to craft their own narrative about what they have to offer schools, while also building a sense of community between families and staff. So without further ado, Ivelissa, we welcome you and are really excited about what you're going to be sharing with us this evening.
Thank you so much for a beautiful introduction. And thank you for the opportunity to be in community with everyone here. Super excited about tonight. I want to jump right in because it's a pretty lengthy workshop and because it allows for engagement. And so I'm going to jump right into it. I just want to give a heads up, a disclosure that there's going to be some sensitive, courageous conversations happening here tonight, but they're all in the spirit of everyone learning. So I hope that that's the way it lands for everyone.
Thank you so much for that. And just before you jump right in, please know that we are recording this evening. So if you happen to be having a bad hair day, now would be a great time for you to turn off your camera. All right.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Is this clear?
Yes.
There's nothing blocking. Okay, good. All right. So first I want to say I created this as part of C-Plan. And so I want to kind of just give a quick snapshot of who C-Plan is. And so C-Plan strives to equip parents to be able to advocate for their children, to ensure that they have a safe and healthy learning environment. We believe that in order to create a necessary change in the education system in a meaningful and sustainable way, it requires parents like yourself coming together with other parents, collaborating with school staff to improve the educational experience of all students. So today's discussion is going to be school culture and climate. And what we're going to cover is, what is school culture and climate? Why should we care? How can we identify an issue within our school? How can we organize with other parents and caregivers with shared goals to work as partners with our schools to improve the school culture and climate? So just to kind of set the
Let
tone
me
for
finish this up
today.
first because I can't hear at the same time.
So these are the components that are required in order for us to have courageous conversations. So we have to experience discomfort, acknowledge that discomfort is inevitable, especially in dialogues about what's best for our children. We are all here in the spirit of creating a safe and healthy environment to learn. Stay engaged. Advocacy takes time. Remain morally, emotionally, and intellectually and socially involved throughout the process to achieve any kind of change. Speak your truth and understand that your reality might be different from everyone else's, and other people's reality might be different from yours. Speak your truth anyway. Share your genuine thoughts. Be open about your ideas and feelings. Don't say what you think others want to hear, because you might inspire others to speak their truth and their reality as well. And again, we're here in the spirit of learning. So it's important, it's critical for us to be honest. Expect and accept non-closure. So sit with uncertainty and don't rush to quick solutions, because this is an ongoing work, right? This is years and years of something that was built. So it's going to take years and years to kind of shift it. So why is this important? According to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, these are the needs that we all need as humans in order to reach self-actualization. Now, we're more, humans are a bit complex. Can I kindly ask everyone to mute themselves, please? So what this is saying is not saying that if somebody's missing anything, they're never going to reach success. There's exceptions to every rule. Where as humans, we're very complex. But what this is saying is that if we don't have these foundational essentials, it decreases the chances of us reaching self-actualization. And so when we think about a child's educational experience, we cannot think about the child unless we think about the whole child. If a child is missing, is homeless, if they're hungry, if they don't feel safe, whether it's at home or at school, they're not in the right state of mind to be able to learn. And so that's kind of the idea behind why this is so important, is because these are the basic essential needs in order for us to reach self-actualization. So this is why it's important to think about the whole child's educational experience beyond academics. So now I want to kind of just break down a little bit further about the school culture and climate. So we have to look at the safety. The safety is access and entrance. So as you know, and depending on the school district that you're in, there might be some schools that have metal detectors, a high police presence, security cameras, you name it. And although one may think that this makes the people there feel safe, it's actually the contrary. Data has shown that when there's an increased police presence at a school, it's actually more detrimental than it is helpful. And if you notice that the police presence is usually higher in communities of color as opposed to affluent communities. So the access and the entrance point feels like that of a airport. That's kind of like the culture and climate that you're creating from the beginning. So I think it's important for us to think about, how are we welcomed into the school to begin with? How do we feel as soon as we enter? Under safety, it also encompasses discipline practices, the rules that they have, security cameras, the heat, the air ventilation. So unfortunately, it took the pandemic for schools to realize how important these things are. But and then clean water access as well. So there are a lot of schools across Massachusetts that actually don't have clean water access. They have really, really old water fountains that spread germs like no other. And so these are all things that fall under safety that we might want to be mindful of when we're thinking about how safe do we feel about our kids in that school. Environment is the staff and guests, the way that they greet our kids when they walk in. As a parent, I have seen how our kids are greeted when they walk in, and it's like, stand in line, sit still, do this, do that. It's never like, good morning, how are you doing? How are you feeling? I know that that might exist in some schools. I'm only speaking from my own personal experiences, but I know that sets the tone for the child for the rest of the day. And so that's something that we need to really look at, is how are our kids welcomed and greeted from the moment they walk in through the door. We have to recognize whether or not it's culturally relevant. Do they have that sense of belonging that hierarchy of needs showed us? Do they have a sense of belonging there, or do they feel like a guest, or do they feel welcomed? Do the folks there have empathy, compassion? Do they see images? Do they see themselves in the images and the literature that exists in the school? Do they have safe rooms and a lot of natural lighting? So I think that most of us as adults here know that natural lighting does offer a lot of vitamin D, which also produces good mood. I won't get into the scientifics behind it, but it does contribute to how you feel. And so these are things that the environment really what it encompasses and what we want to look at in terms of how it generates a good culture and climate. Now, teaching and learning is more about the curriculum, the inclusive teaching style, the social and emotional learning, and the trauma-sensitive care. And then the relationships between schools and families. Are they culturally appropriate, meaning that they're multilingual in some cases, or just multi-layered communications, meaning there are some folks that don't have internet or are not tech savvy, or just prefer a phone call or an in-person. There's, different social and communication styles. And so we have to make sure that we are culturally appropriate with those. Constant communication, more positive just as much as we do negative. And then rewards and praise these are all things that encompasses the relationship component of a school culture and climate. So here is the difference between the culture and climate. So the culture is the way we do things around here. So it's the personality of the school based on values and belief, the sense of community that it offers, part of who we are as a unit, as a collective, a deep focus on shared values and interests. And this is something that takes years to evolve. We also have to create systems that kind of outlive us. So systems are usually created from the top down. And so if this is like the principal and administration that create a good, positive school culture and climate, they have to create it in a way where it's handed off to other folks as they leave the system, so that it's just a continuous, set of practices and values. Now, climate is more about...
I'm sorry to interrupt, but could you slow down just a little bit, please?
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
Thank you.
Now, climate is the way we feel around here. So this is more about attitude based on perceptions, can be felt when you enter a room, creates a state of mind. It surrounds us, therefore it is easy to change. Sorry, this went all the way to the end. I'm sorry. Okay, so now just to get into a little bit deeper about the climate and the culture. So the climate is the school's effect on students. So this includes the teaching practices, the diversity that it may or may not have, relationships teachers and staff have with students, and it's the relationship between students amongst each other. So the first thing that improves when a positive change is made is these things. Now, the culture of it is the school's effects on the school environment. The relationships between the adults. And I'm pretty sure that everyone here knows that kids watch how the adults interact with each other. We are literally exemplifying, or at least should be leading by example on how they should build and maintain relationships. And so this, in terms of the culture, this is something that's also critical because students are watching the adults and how they treat and engage with each other. The way teachers and other staff members work together and the set of beliefs, values, and assumptions that they share. It's all something that the students are a part of, that they watch, and that they, in many cases, replicate. And then finally, it's the ideologies that the teachers have that influences their practices. So this is what determines whether or not improvement is possible. Now, I want to introduce these two different concepts because they contribute towards the school culture and climate as well. So punitive disciplinary practices include zero tolerance policies, publicly chastising, and then suspended or expelled for breaking school rules. So these are things that are very punitive and does not really get to the core root of the behavior of a child. And so sometimes dismissing the core root of the behaviors is not going to improve the child's behavior. It is going to actually further the trauma, if it's trauma that they have experienced, or it's going to further worsen the issue. Now, a restorative justice practice is more so thinking about it in like a rehabilitation method to get to the root cause of the child's behavior. And ways that we can kind of do this is through community circles, having a meditation room to be used as a calming room, and provide or offer services that really correct or redirect said behaviors. Now, remember when I said that data has shown that police presence actually is detrimental to the school culture and climate? It actually contributes to the school to prison pipeline. The reason for that is because police officers are trained to deal with criminals. We cannot think of our children as criminals when they're in a stage in their lives where we as adults are responsible for guiding and directing them. They're in a learning environment. And so we need that the adults to be equipped to be able to offer that kind of guidance, direction, and correction, and be able to offer that rehabilitation methods. They in healthcare facilities is considered trauma sensitive care. And so these are practices that schools should also adopt in order to help our children really develop in a positive manner. Wow. Okay, sorry, this does its own thing sometimes. Here we go. So I'm gonna show this. It's only a few minutes because I want us to discuss what we think about it afterwards. Hold on, I think I have to make sure that it share sound. Okay. Sorry.
We develop terminology to be accurate. What is something that's toxic? What would make something toxic? If there was a toxic field near this convention center, if you wanted to plant a tree in that toxic field, what would happen to that tree? It would die. If you wanted to plant an ear of corn, it would die. Well, what would a toxic school culture look like? A place where educational reforms find their graveyard. That no matter how good the idea is, the environment becomes so toxic that even the best idea never gets fully implemented. And that's why he used that terminology. What is a toxic culture? It's a place where educators believe that student success is based solely upon a student's level of concern, attentiveness, prior knowledge, and willingness to comply with the demands of school. And they pass that on to others in overt and covert ways. Let's stop. Again, we have a belief system being evoked. But in a toxic culture, does it appear, and I want to ask you a question, I want you to think about this. If you read that first part of this definition, does it seem as if learning is impossible in a toxic culture? If you think yes, raise your hand. If you think no, raise your hand. Those who raised their hand and said learning is possible in a toxic culture, you're right. But there seems to be a big list of prerequisites. If you care, if you pay attention, if your parents read to you when you were little, if you do what I tell you to do. Now, are any of those characteristics bad characteristics? Absolutely not. If every child that walked into your classroom cared, paid attention, had background knowledge, and did exactly what we told them to do, this conference probably wouldn't even be necessary. But unfortunately, they don't all walk in the door like that. So what does it seem that a toxic culture does? They explain away their difficulties based upon if students have certain characteristics or don't. So they're a totally external, extrinsically motivated staff who says, if these things happen, then students will have an opportunity to learn. How would a healthy culture attack those issues? They would figure out what do we need to do to develop these characteristics in students so that they can learn. What's interesting about the difference between a healthy and a toxic culture is this. It's not that healthy cultures have fewer problems. Healthy cultures attack their problems differently, and toxic cultures explain their problems away.
Okay, so I'd like to welcome participants to kind of discuss what their thoughts are about what we just watched.
So if you have a comment, if you could either use the raise hand feature, because I can't see people, or put a note in the chat, then I'll be happy to recognize you so that you can speak. And what I wonder also is, Renee, can we pause the recording? Because I'm wondering if people will feel comfortable discussing this while it's being recorded. All right.
So now we're going to get into the psychological impact. Disclaimer, I'm about to share a video that contains a derogatory term, specifically an anti-Black racist remark. So if this is this basically a trigger warning for anyone who's in the space, that is something to expect out of the video. But when you see the whole video, you'll understand the reason why I decided to share this video.
This is a special week. Does anybody know what it is?
National Brotherhood.
National Brotherhood Week. What's brotherhood?
Be kind to your brothers. Be kind.
Okay, be kind to your brothers.
Like you would like to be treated.
Treat everyone the way you would like to be treated. Treat everyone as though he was your brother. And is there anyone in this United States that we do not treat as our brothers?
Yes.
Who?
Yeah.
The black people. Who else? Absolutely, the Indians. And when many people see a black person or a yellow person or a red person, what do they think?
Look at that. Dumb people.
They look at the dumb people. What else do they think sometimes? What kinds of things do they say about black people?
Call them niggers.
In the city, many places in the United States, How are black people treated? How are Indians treated? How are people who are of a different color than we are treated?
They're part of this world. They don't get anything in this world.
Why is that?
Because they're different color.
You think you know how that would feel to be judged by the color of your skin?
Yeah.
Do you think you do? No, I don't think you'd know how that felt unless you had been through it, would you? It might be interesting to judge people today by the color of their eyes. Would you like to try this?
Yeah.
Sounds like fun, doesn't it? Since I'm the teacher and I have blue eyes, I think maybe the blue-eyed people should be on top the first day.
And up here?
I mean, the blue-eyed people are the better people in this room. Oh, yes, they are. Blue-eyed people are smarter than brown-eyed people.
My dad isn't that stupid.
Is your dad brown-eyed?
Yeah.
One day you came to school and you told us that he kicked you.
He did.
Do you think a blue-eyed father would kick his son?
Yeah. My dad.
My dad's blue-eyed. He's never kicked me. Greg's dad is blue-eyed. He's never kicked him. Rex's dad is blue-eyed. He's never kicked him. This is a fact. Blue-eyed people are better than brown-eyed people. Are you brown-eyed or blue-eyed?
No.
Why are you shaking your head?
I don't know.
Are you sure that you're right? Why? What makes you so sure that you're right?
I don't know.
The blue-eyed people get 5 extra minutes of recess, while the brown-eyed people have to stay in. The brown-eyed people do not get to use the drinking fountain. You'll have to use the paper cups. You brown-eyed people are not to play with the blue-eyed people on the playground because you are not as good as blue-eyed people. Well, the brown-eyed people in this room today are going to wear collars so that we can tell from a distance what color your eyes are. On page 127. 127. Is everyone ready? Everyone but Laurie. Ready, Laurie?
Brown-eyed.
She's a brown-eyed. You'll begin to notice today that we spend a great deal of time waiting for brown-eyed people. The yardstick's gone. Well, okay. I don't see the yardstick. Do you?
It's probably over there. Hey, Miss Lake, you better keep that on your desk so if the brown-eyed people get out of hand.
Oh! You think if the brown-eyed people get out of hand, that would be the thing to use? Who goes first to lunch?
Blue-eyed.
The blue-eyed people. No brown-eyed people go back for seconds. Blue-eyed people may go back for seconds. Brown-eyed people do not.
Brown-eyed.
Don't you know?
Oh, they're not smart.
Is that the only reason?
They'll take too much.
It might take too much. Okay, quietly.
And it seemed like when we were down on the bottom, everything bad was happening to us.
The way they treated you, you felt like you didn't even want to try to do anything.
It seemed like Mrs. Elliott was taking our best friends away from us.
What happened at recess? Were 2 of you boys fighting?
Yeah, Russell and John were.
What happened, John?
Russell called me names and I hit him in the gut.
What did he call you?
Brown eyes.
Did you call him brown eyes?
They always call us that. Craig and all of the boys call us that. They keep calling us brown eyes. They say, come here, brown eyes. And they were calling us blue eyes. I wasn't. Sandy and Donna were. Yeah.
What's wrong with being called brown eyes?
It means that we're stupider. Well, not that. But... Oh, that's just the same way as other people calling black people niggers. Yeah.
Is that the reason you hit him, John? Did it help? Did it stop him? Did it make you feel better inside?
Stop Russell.
Make you feel better inside? Did it make you feel better to call him Brown Eyes? Why do you suppose you call him Brown Eyes?
Right, because he has brown eyes.
Is that the only reason? He didn't call him Brown Eyes yesterday, and he had brown eyes yesterday. Didn't he?
Because we just started it. Ever since you put those blue things on there. Tease him. Kind of tease him.
Oh, is this teasing?
No. Well, he did it.
Were you doing it for fun, to be funny, or were you doing it to be mean? I don't know. Don't ask me. Did anyone laugh at you when you did it?
I watched what had been marvelous, cooperative, wonderful, thoughtful children turn into nasty, vicious, discriminating little third graders in a space of 15 minutes.
Yesterday, I told you that brown-eyed people aren't as good as blue-eyed people. That wasn't true. I lied to you yesterday. The truth is that brown-eyed people are better than blue-eyed people. Russell, where are your glasses?
I forgot him.
You forgot them. And what color are your eyes?
Blue.
Susan Ginder has brown eyes. She didn't forget her glasses.
Yeah.
Russell Ring has blue eyes, and what about his glasses?
He forgot him.
He forgot them. Yesterday we were visiting, and Greg said, "Boy, I like to hit my little sister as hard as I can. That's fun." What does that tell you about blue-eyed people?
They're naughty. In fact, they fight a lot.
The brown-eyed people may take off their collars, and each of you may put your collar on a blue-eyed person. The brown-eyed people get 5 extra minutes of recess. You blue-eyed people are not allowed to be on the playground equipment at any time. You blue-eyed people are not to play with the brown-eyed people. Brown-eyed people are better than blue-eyed people. They're smarter than blue-eyed people. And if you don't believe it, look at Brian. Do blue-eyed people know how to sit in a chair? Very sad. Very, very sad. Who can tell me what contraction should be in the first sentence? Go to the board and write it, John. Come on, let's do it again. Loosen up. Up, up, up. Come on. That's better. Now, do you know how to make a W? Okay, write the contraction for we are. Now, that's beautiful writing. Is that better?
Yeah.
Brown-eyed people learn fast, don't they?
Yeah.
Boy, do brown-eyed people learn fast. Very good. Greg, what did you do with that cup? Will you please go and get that cup and put your name on it and keep it at your desk? Blue-eyed people are wasteful. Okay, you want to be timed this morning?
Yeah. A.
I use Orton Gillingham Phonics. We use the card pack. And the children, the brown-eyed children, were in the low class the first day, and it took them 5.5 minutes to get through the card pack. The second day, it took them 2.5 minutes. The only thing that had changed was the fact that now they were superior people.
I thought you were going to give me
You went faster than I've ever had anyone go through the card pack. Why couldn't you get them yesterday?
We had those collars on.
You think the collars kept you?
just keep thinking about those collars.
Oh.
And my eyes kept getting rolling around.
Oh, and you couldn't think as well with the collars on. 4 minutes and 18 seconds.
I knew we weren't going to make it.
How long did it take you yesterday?
3 minutes.
3 minutes. How long did it take you today?
4 minutes and 18 seconds.
What happened?
One down.
Why? What are you thinking of?
This.
I hate today.
How do you do? I hate too.
Because I'm blue-eyed.
See, I am too.
There's nothing, it's not funny, it's not fun, it's not pleasant. This is a filthy, nasty word called discrimination. We're treating people a certain way because they are different from the rest of us. Is that fair?
No.
Nothing fair about it. We didn't say this was going to be a fair day, did we?
No.
And it isn't. It's a horrid day. Okay, you ready? What did you people who are wearing blue collars now find out today?
I know what they felt like yesterday.
So just in the spirit of time, I'm going to cut it right here because I think that everyone gets the message at this point.
Funny how the media covers
So,
white.
sorry. So this is a space where I normally allow people to give me their reactions and have dialogue because it speaks to a lot of the things that I mentioned about what school culture and climate is and what it involves. But I want to be very intentional about how it impacts the students' academic performance. So one of the key main, I think there were several messages within this video, but one of the main ones is how the culture and climate that was created for them directly impacted their performance. We could physically see how it impacted them socially and emotionally. And then it had a domino effect on their performance as well. Now this is a much shorter video. But you'll understand why I play it as to how it plays into what people think of themselves and how they show up in the classroom.
Riots versus black protests. Breaking news. Seems like when the protesters are black, the media uses some pretty harsh words.
The bad guys, lawlessness, looting, wild animals,
criminals, and thugs.
Thugs. Isn't it the right word?
However, if you're white and you're tearing up the city because of a game, you're just young people.
Young people danced on a flipped-over car.
His UK fans did stupid things.
Some maybe got a little out of control.
Seeing a scene like this just shows how passionate the UK fans are.
It's so tough to lose, and unfortunately the ugly side that we sometimes see in sports.
And notice how the police always show up to a black protest in military-grade equipment, and yet the media claims they're just doing nothing.
It's inexplicable why the police are doing nothing.
Let's mobilize the National Guard.
If I'm a riot and I see the police doing nothing, I might feel like I have a license.
You would.
But at white riots, the cops actually are standing around doing nothing.
Another group of cops over there just standing there.
No one was really doing anything.
These guys look like they could be watching a parade. And why is it that the leadership of the black community is always called into question?
Where is the leadership?
Leadership.
The black leadership.
The absence of leadership.
And it goes back to leadership, but that leadership has to come from the community.
But no one ever questions the leadership of white parents who let their kids burn down and vandalize their college campus.
These are just young college students who think they're playing some kind of a game with police officers.
You know, sometimes they don't even call a white riot a riot.
Party gone awry.
Some fans got a bit too rowdy after the win.
A dispute, a bloody brawl.
There was some type of altercation.
Waco, 170 arrested, 9 people dead.
They're not thugs.
Baltimore, no deaths, but it's a riot, chock full of thugs.
Thugs.
Just thugs. What if the media portrayed white rioters the same as black protesters? Let's switch the audio and see how it plays out.
Breaking news, violent protest.
What you're looking at is the unraveling of the civil society.
Criminals and thugs.
And they're raising hell and they're destroying property.
These idiotic thugs, rioting and looting, are hurting their own people.
Wild animals burning buildings down.
Especially if they know the media's all there, right? Got the cameras on everyone. It's become its own reality show.
Who acts like that towards a police officer?
Think for yourself. Don't let racist media color your perceptions.
Okay, so I'm gonna stop it right there. So the reason why I'm playing, I've played this video right after the last one is because we noticed how powerful words were. I want to stop sharing for a second. We noticed how powerful words were, how it showed up in the classroom, how it really how detrimental it was to a child and their ability to learn. And I gave one example of many that I could pull up on how Black students specifically are often described. So if this is what they're being told and taught, how do we expect them to show up in the classroom? How do we expect them to be in the right state of mind to learn? So there is more than just one message, but I wanted to focus on this specifically because of how detrimental the words have an impact. So now I'm going to share the inequities that it then creates. So when we look at, in Massachusetts specifically, in these different categories, for opportunities, white students are 1.5 times more likely to be let into advanced placement courses than students of 2 or more races. In discipline, Black students are 2.5 times more likely to be suspended or referred to police than white students. In representation, white students are 7.5 times more likely to have teachers of their race. And in Massachusetts, I just want to point out that Hispanic students is the second largest student population. So this kind of is an inequity that it does for them as well. And studies show that having a Black teacher is beneficial for all students. And in underachievement, economically disadvantaged students get an average of 17 points lower on MCAS than students who are not economically disadvantaged. So my question is, why do we think that this is a reality? Do we see any intersectionality, any correlation?
Okay, Renee, can we pause the recording again? Thank you. And yes, I agree. Having a follow-up would be a fantastic idea. So we will bring that back to the team.
So here are a few suggestions. I promise I won't be long. Use strength-based approach. So this is identifying the strengths in the behavior students are displaying and let them know how they can use them more productively. So if there is a student that is displaying leadership abilities in a negative way, it is our job to redirect them, not chastise them because they don't know how to use them. It is our job to teach them how to use them. Use positive language. For example, let's sit on our chair safely to avoid getting hurt versus don't stand on your chair. Another example is, can I see your face versus take your hoodie off? Because adulting sometimes, adultism tends to happen a lot in schools as well, where we take advantage of our authority as opposed to just using that positive language. We can use unified language, which is using let's, us, we, ours, right? Like let's all practice active listening when others are speaking versus be quiet or shut up, right? Coexisting respectfully with others. So learn to coexist and respect people of different backgrounds, experiences, and beliefs with warmth. And then centering the youth voice, because we have to let them know that what they think and feel matters. And so this is just a reminder of why this is important. Don't have to go through this again. And here are some suggestions on what we could do. So now that we know, what can we do? We can break down the barriers that get in the way of our children reaching social, emotional, and academic success. Organize with other parents who share the same concerns. To work together as partners with our child's school to be the change that we desire for our children. Find the voice and make sure that it is heard. Find our voice and make sure that it is heard. Become a part of the school's parent councils or create one. And at the end, I'm going to be biased. Use C-Plan resources, trainings, and coaching to guide your advocacy. But there are other organizations such as the Federation you can use as well, depending on the need. And that is it. That's all I have. And I apologize because I'm sure that there are a ton of emotions right now that people just want to, share. But there is a post survey where you can share more, and hopefully we'll have a part 2 to this.
Okay. Well, Ivelissa, thank you so much for coming today and sharing a different way to think about school culture and climate. As we all know, this is it's a tough topic. It's a hard topic, but we have to have the courage to have the conversation in order to be able to move forward. And I see that there are lots of people that are very interested in having a part 2, perhaps a part 3 and 4, because as we know, when we're talking about things of this nature, there aren't any easy solutions. It's a lot of hard work, and it's not going to be resolved in just an hour discussion. So we will definitely follow up with some additional conversation. And thank everyone else for joining us this evening. We're so happy that you are here and willing to dive into this topic with us. And we're looking forward to continuing this conversation, and not only just continuing the conversation, but joining together on creating the solution that we're looking for and being the change that we want for our children, for ourselves, and our communities. So with that, I wish you all a wonderful, safe evening and look forward to seeing you all again very, very soon. We also, in addition, you will be getting a survey, as you always do, for feedback after this workshop. We would love to hear, for those of you who use the new interpretation service, your feedback on that as well. So please make sure you let us know, what did you like about it and what would you like to see differently, so that we can use that and continue our efforts for really being inclusive of all families. Thanks so much, everybody, and have a fantastic evening.